Prime Minister Trudeau is vowing the detained Canadians in China will be on the agenda at the G20. U.S. President Donald Trump picks the next ambassador to Canada. And if you're an MP who won by less than 5% margin in the last election, a new poll says you've got some work to do before October. Joining us with the latest on these political stories is the Globe and Mail's Laura Stone. Good to have you here.
Good to be here.
All right, let's start with President Trump. He said he'll do anything he can to help Canada at the G20. What can we expect him to bring up in terms of the detained Canadians while he's over in China?
Well, look, President Trump is extremely mercurial. We saw the way that he attacked Justin Trudeau last summer. This time when he met with Trudeau recently at the White House, Justin Trudeau was back in his good books. And he did say that he will bring up these detained Canadians when he meets with President Xi at the G20 summit. But how much will he press the Chinese government? Will he help Prime Minister Trudeau get a meeting himself? Or could he potentially aggravate the situation or not go into too many details? We don't know. The Canadians don't know how much they can trust Donald Trump to bring up this case. And Canada is still getting squeezed. We saw the lawyer from Mulroney, the Huawei executive who was arrested here in Canada, at the request of the U.S., has asked the federal government to drop the extradition request against her. So Canada is still, no matter what Donald Trump does, Canada is still in a very sticky situation here with China.
There are reports Trump has picked a replacement, speaking of the president, for the current ambassador to Canada. Tell us about that one.
Well, Aldona Voss is the name that has come up to replace Kelly Craft, who is off to be the UN ambassador for the United States. Much like Craft, she is a wealthy Republican donor. She's also a retired physician. She has an interesting background. She was born in Poland. Her father survived a concentration camp. And she also was an envoy for President Bush. In her new role, she'll have to deal with some tricky things. Of course, the China situation. We know that President Trump is in a trade war right now with that country, as well as the new trade deal. The U.S. still has to ratify that. So if she does come in, and we don't know when that would be, she's going to be facing some difficult files.
House of Commons, making things a little more local, is on a summer break, but the polls are still going. They are predicting a very tight race between the Liberals and Conservatives. I know we're still months away, the election happening in October. It's even tighter now with Liberal support seeming to be rebounding. So what does this mean for MPs who just squeaked into their seats in the last election?
Well, there are some pollsters talking about MPs with who won their ridings with less than 5% in the previous election are going to be facing a tough race. And the Liberals actually only have a 7-seat majority right now in the House of Commons. They've lost some seats, and there's been some movement. MPs from all parties have this low, this 5% figure. Although there are some cabinet ministers who are facing this: Catherine McKenna in Ottawa, Amarjeet Sohi in Alberta, and a couple of others. I think certainly the 3 Liberal seats in Alberta, which were very tight races and not a traditional area of the country where there is a lot of Liberal support, will be facing a very tough challenge in the next election.
New faces coming up after October. All right, the Globe and Mail's Laura Stone, thanks for coming in this morning.
Thank you.